Okay.
Now I'm recording.
All right. No one's at Williamson campus, so mute the mic.
Well, let me get back into participants. Well, Williamson muted.
Yeah.
There's kind of the lesser of two evils in that situation.
All right,
Okay.
there we go. There we go.
Anything else?
That's it.
I'm going to finish my lunch.
All right.
Santa Maria, finally. Jesus, that woman is loud.
Yeah. Was it that way when you were there? Was it that
Yes.
way when you were there, Will?
It was much louder.
Whoever that teacher is a loudmouth.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I love the new background.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also teaching the ancient Greek and Roman lit class. We got the Colosseum going here.
Oh, when can I take that?
It's the English 230 Western World Lit. So I'll teach you a bunch of different stuff here, a little bit of everything.
I think you should just change the background every week to like something cool, different.
Yeah, I will. Most of the time I'll change it to something like from the film we'll do or something. That'll be fun.
That'll be awesome.
All right, so let's get back to rolling here. So Will was talking about the propaganda piece and how that he finds that interesting. Just to throw a few more threads out on the table, we also have the iconic performances from both Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman here, right? Bogart is an iconic golden age Hollywood actor. He did a lot of these film noir type of films. Other films he's known for: The Maltese Falcon, Big Sleep. Both of those are classic film noir movies. He oftentimes played a detective. But this, of course, is his most iconic of his roles. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say about his performance, his acting style, and everything of that nature. Of course, Ingrid Bergman's performance is likewise iconic here. One of you guys wrote about how he does a lot of stuff in the film that's borderline unlikable. But despite that, she herself brings a likability to this character where you kind of feel sympathy for her. So, another iconic performance from her there as well. We have this movie is just full of great characters. That's part of the movie's charm. It's full of great characters. Even the police chief there in Casablanca. He is Captain Renault, right? He's also a great character. I think he's so corrupt that it's not funny, right? He's so corrupt and conniving. So let me turn the floor over to you guys then. Before we dive into specifics, what's your general impressions on Casablanca? Was this most of your guys' first time watching it? Have you seen it before? If it was your first time, what was your viewing experience like? Maybe even like what was your viewing experience like after watching Double Indemnity? I'll turn the floor over to some of you guys. What did some of you guys think of this film, Casablanca?
Personally, I really like the film. I watched it in both the colored version that is newer and the black and white, and there is a stark difference in the Maison scene in each. Like the scenes where, like, specifically whenever we have Isa, I think is how you say her name. Whenever she's standing right there and we see the shot where she's like one half of her face is lit and light and the other one in the mirror is dark. It's a very good, like, metaphor for her because her character and her story is very like based in the darkness. I thought they did way better with like the Maison scene and like the impact of emotions than Double and Them to do. And I like this movie a lot, and having to see it multiple times really gives you time to think about it. Personally, hate Rick. Hate Rick as a character. Like everybody, well, except for Isa, because she really like she doesn't become a character until she's like, okay, help me because I pulled a gun on you and also told you the truth about what happened to my husband. So that's why I left. Like, I don't know. I just feel like she very much was just a plot device more so than a character until that point.
Right. So, but you think she did become a well-rounded character as it went along?
Yeah, character development arcs.
Right. So, what about Rick did you not like?
I don't like that he was a hypocrite, and like to go along with the theme of him being America, he says whenever Gertie or Gertie, however you pronounce the name, or Ergert, whatever, is getting arrested in his cafe, and he's screaming for help. He's like, "I don't stick my neck out for nobody." I'm like, okay, you literally ran guns and supplies to Ethiopia, and you helped the loyalist cause in Spain. So you're not actually neutral, which is one of the big reasons that I say that he's similar to America, because America did the exact same thing. They ran supplies and guns and armaments to Great Britain through the blockades that the Germans had set up, and they're like, "Oh, we're neutral in this war," but yet we're helping the Allied powers during the war, and then America only entered the conflict whenever something was done against them, and Isa was basically the Pearl Harbor of the story because she forced Rick to get involved, being like, I couldn't be with you because my husband was actually alive and I found out and I'm threatening you with a gun right now. She's very much the bomb that starts Rick's involvement in the story because for the entirety he's just very, like I don't want to get involved, and there's a specific scene where I just think he gets lazy because there are French and German soldiers and they're about to start fighting in the bar, and he asks he's either ranked captain or lieutenant Richter to be like, hey, I need you to shut the cafe down because something bad's about to happen. I'm like, it's your cafe. Take responsibility for it. Like, America sunk several U-boats and other German freighters and never took credit for it and stayed neutral. And then it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to blame this on somebody else until I have to enter the war and actually do stuff, And it very much painted Europe in this light of like, oh, we need help. We need so much help from America. Please come and save, like I don't know, it just felt very vulnerable as like Europe goes, and America coming in and being like, "Oh, I'm the big strong to help you," and that's basically what Rick was. Like Isa couldn't do anything without Rick's help, even though she could have.
Right. So Will's going along on this line of inquiry here. If you guys don't know your I see Jessica's there at Williams. We had to mute the mic, Jessica, earlier because you weren't there. The teacher next door was a loudmouth. So I see you there, though. I would have to get David to unmute you again, probably. But Will's going along the line of inquiry here. If you guys don't know your World War II history much, America up until the Pearl Harbor was kind of staying neutral, right? We didn't. This was.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Good.
Okay. I'll shut this door. It's next door.
I'm gonna figure out who's teaching over there and tell them to pipe it down.
I know it. Like, y'all need to be quiet.
Yeah, you don't have to scream, right?
For real.
But America going into the war was, we were sympathizing with England, but the American people were not on board with entering a war. It was the same with World War I and World War II. It took something drastic to get us involved. Like we followed the Monroe Doctrine, right? We're over here in North America. We don't care what's going on in Europe, right? That's none of our business. So Will's kind of going along the lines that Rick's bar is almost a symbol of America in the film, right? America wants to stay neutral, but America finds that it can't stay neutral, right? Because of the war comes to America, right? That's pretty much what happens. Just like how the war comes to the bar here in the film. Someone before I started, someone over there in Logan was going to say something. Someone going to say something a second ago.
No, but can. I think Rick was a dog, dude. Rick, like, he did what he wanted. He done whatever he wanted.
Right.
Especially at the end, like even though he he wanted Isaac, he still let him go. And then that cop pulled up and he just shot him. Plain as day, not a care in the world. I thought it was cool how him and Louis became friends.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, Rick was very like a Batman-esque character, just like, gets what he wants and doesn't really care about the consequences. And like, I compare him to Batman because Batman won't kill people, but he'll definitely give you a permanent spinal injury.
Yeah, was that you, Desmond, who just said that? Well, who said that in Logan just now?
Kyle.
Kyle, yeah. You're exactly right. He does just do whatever he wants. You never know how he's feeling at any given moment, right? Which kind of adds to the suspense of the film. Like at the very end, you have to ask yourself: is he going to keep Ilsa there or no? Right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's very much like a problem with these older films because, like for a long time, men were supposed to be like breadwinners and stuff and not have like a display of emotion or whatever. So it's like, I feel like it's very hard to get a read on somebody's character, especially in like these older movies, whenever they don't tell us. Like, that's why I like Double Indemnity, because it had, inner monologues of the male protagonist, and we could actually get a sense of what he was feeling. And I don't feel like we got that with Rick, so there's kind of a disconnect between being able to relate to his character and wanting to feel bad for the stuff that he's doing.
Yeah, Bogart plays this type of character. He's very much this old school. Whenever we talk about masculinity in film, he definitely plays this old school type of masculine character, right? Very, very laconic, right? He's not one to talk much about his feelings. But despite that, he is a character who does feel a lot of intense emotion, right? But he's not one to talk about it, right? He plays that old school type of masculine figure that was the 40s, the 50s, right? That was the ideal masculinity of the time. Someone who maybe does feel a lot of stuff, but just isn't going to come out outright express it.
I don't need a therapist. I'll go shoot some liquor. Like
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I can't think of any actor who can embody that type of thing better than Bogart, right? Because he's always smoking, right? He's always drinking in the film, right?
Hugh Jackman comes to mind whenever I think about that. The guy who played Wolverine in like all of the movies. I don't know. I feel like that's a very important thing that can be talked about for hours is like, the emotional spectrum in a movie and like the psychology of characters is just very interesting. And would that technically count as like the mise en scene? I mean, I know it's an invisible part of it, but like
Are you talking about I don't know if we would count that as mise en scene or not. That's probably more in the subtext of the film, right? The plot, analysis of the characters, probably more than the mise en scene.
unless they're very expressive with their facial movements.
Right. Well, or if the camera is doing things visually storytelling to show the character, like as we'll go over in a second, or the lighting or something like that. Looking back at my notes, Desmond over Logan, you talked about Rick as a very morally ambiguous character. If you're there, you want to explain more what you wrote about?
Yeah, he's very flawed and very selfish, but he comes through at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me how he's selfish and flawed.
Well, like he, doesn't stick his neck out for nobody. So he's just, very, trying not to help, people until he, sort of decides to do the right thing for Isla.
Yeah. Even we do get a lot of motivation in the film for why he is so selfish, right? We learn that he was a participant in the Spanish Civil War, which ended with fascists taking over Spain, right? So we do know that he's very political, right? He's very anti-fascist, but he was also involved in the war effort in France. Right? But this heartbreak that Ilsa put him through, right? That kind of makes him hardened and doesn't want to care about. He doesn't care about his fellow man and stuff as much anymore after his heartbreak.
Yeah, it changed him.
Right. Yeah. Of course, you can ask yourself the question like, what was that childish, right? That he kind of starts to lose his connection with the rest of humanity, right? Just because he suffered a heartbreak, right? It's a little that could perhaps be an unlikable trait of him if you want to go down that path.
I feel like emotional immaturity plays a lot into each of these characters because, Isa thought her husband was dead the whole time and was with Rick and wanted to be with him. At that point, I would have just been like, if you love someone and you want to be with them, regardless or not, if, you found out your husband's alive or whatever, you thought he was dead this whole time. So why is that on you to feel bad about it? If I were her, I would have just been like, oh, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they don't have the emotional maturity, at least in those times, to be able to move on from someone, even if they were, alive or whatever. If you found someone that you love more, don't make yourself unhappy by being with, the old person that you thought was dead.
Right. Yeah, that's not all on Rick, right? Part of that is on her as well. I guess in her defense though, like, her husband was in a concentration camp, right? She didn't know, right? So it's kind of hard to dump the guy, right, after he was in a concentration camp, right? I could kind of see her point there.
Yeah, she was very much just like, oh, my husband's in a concentration camp. He's dead. Oh well, on to Rick. That's how I would have been. You know, like there's no reason she should make herself suffer and not be happy because of a man. And like she gives Rick this letter, and we get a very good shot of the letter, and I found out it's categorized as like a weeping letter, and I'm like, you could have just told him that yourself. It's like breaking up over text message in a letter, like, well, today's equivalent is what that would be
Right.
like.
Yeah, that was kind of a bad way to go about it, to say the least. And then she just magically shows up one day at his cafe in another country, right?
Yeah, no, I don't like her.
Okay, tell me why.
Because of that. I mean, I think that's dirty. I mean, he's in a, like, how you just gonna leave him? Just gotta put time in and you just up and go find somebody else like he never mattered.
Right.
I don't like that. Disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, she could have maybe been honest with him from the start. Maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. But we see here, neither one of these characters are perfect, right? They're both flawed human beings, which in this age of Hollywood, having characters who were this flawed, right, was maybe a hard thing. So many of these characters were very one-dimensional in early Hollywood. So having these morally gray characters, right? Maybe that's more of a representation of humanity, perhaps we could argue. Yeah, so let's dive into some film specifics here. This was what most of you guys wrote about for today on the discussion boards. Let me double check. Let me see if anybody else wrote anything since I last checked. This film is a masterclass of filmmaking. Most of you guys wrote about the soundtrack in the film. A lot of you guys were interested in that. One thing that I'd like to maybe start with the camera. I'd like to start with the camera and lighting. Let me show you guys the classic. This is the classic scene from the movie where the lighting is very obvious as far as showing. I'll just show you the still image. This is when Rick is kind of in his bar. He's waiting for Ilsa to come up. You guys see the shot here, right? Half of his face is lit, half of it's in darkness. Right. It's very much like a Batman Two-Face type of image here, right? Showing his moral grayness, right? His darkness is his feelings that's holding him back, right? His light is his inner goodness. Right. So it's classic. This is a classic shot. Um, I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know from Will. You talked about you watched it in color. What did that scene look like in color?
Well, in color, it just doesn't have the same impact because whenever you have black and white, those are literally two opposites on the spectrum. But whenever you have colors and color theory and gradients, it doesn't give you that impactfulness because like whenever he's in that part of the bar, and also whenever Isa is with the mirror, it just looks like it's a darker shade on her face, and for Rick it just looks, like he's a little tanner on that side. It doesn't really show that much of a oblique contrast because, if you work with colors and stuff, like shadows and lighting have a lot to do with, color variance. But when black and white is just like a steep cutoff, it's like the two-faced man and woman, like, you hide one side and the other, and it's drastically different. But whenever you have color, there's not that much of an impact. And given that this movie came out a year after color had first been developed for films, it wasn't also the best color.
Right. Gone with the Wind is probably one of the earliest examples of a color film. I think that came out a couple of years before this. But the movie wasn't made for color, right? It was Ted Turner, when he made the Turner Classics Movies channel, he kind of ordered a collar for them to fill in the collar, shot by shot. So that well after the movie had been out, almost a half century, he added collar to it. So interesting little tidbit there. When that channel came out, I guess people didn't want to watch a lot of black and white films for various reasons, like how a lot of you guys might have found them distasteful before. So he added color to a lot of them, for better or for worse. How did you access the color version, Will? Did you find it on the internet?
I just went and found like there's ones on YouTube that are like in pieces, so I had to watch the movie in like 42 parts in color.
Right.
I actually have a comparison pulled up of one of the scene where they're at the airplane, and the black and white, honestly, in my opinion, looks better.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could share my screen or whatever.
You should be able to. You should be able to.
I need permission to share it.
Unfortunately, I can't grant it to you.
Okay, there it goes.
There you go.
So like this right here is the Photoshop and then the black and white comparison. And the Photoshopped one with the color just looks, I don't know, it looks more like a comic illustration than a movie. You have this one which is a little better, which this one on the right is actually the one in color instead of the Photoshop. But personally, I think it is better in black and white, and I also think that because I didn't have to watch the black and white in like 42 parts on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, I wonder. I would like to watch the whole thing in color myself. The thing with it is, though, like you said, it does seem very comic, like almost like a comic book or something. But that's because the color was added in post production.
But the one thing I can say that I will give the color is they went back and they didn't redub the audio, but they definitely cleaned it up more.
Oh yeah, how so?
You know how like black and white films have that real gritty, like almost like an echo whenever someone's talking. They cut that and splice it in better with the soundtrack. Like, because you couldn't like layer on audio with movies and stuff. Like everything was recorded pretty much together and put on top of one another. Well, whenever they went back and edited it, they spliced the music to not cut into the dialogue, and it just sounds a lot better. So from a sound design perspective, the in colored version is a little better, but that's just, because it's been modernized. But, for the black and white, I have to give it for the artistic value.
And some of you guys wrote about some other scenes. Leah, I see you're here. You wrote about a scene with you saw bars, and you said that it was a symbol of imprisonment in the film. You want to comment on that? Are you there with us? She says she's going to type her comment, so we'll wait for that here in a second. Well, is Myra with us? Myra? Let's see.
She's here. She just went to the bathroom.
You went to the bathroom. I'll get her when she comes back. Let's see. Kaylin, I see that you're here on Zoom. You wrote about lighting in the film too. You wrote about how Ilsa is lit too. We've been talking about how Rick is lit with the shadows and whatnot. You want to talk about how Ilsa is lit? You wrote about it in your response.
Yeah, I feel like she's lit in like really bright light and like her eyes sparkle a lot and she wears a lot of white because it's like trying to compare her to like her innocence throughout the movie.
Right. Yeah, I never thought about the eyes sparkling thing before. That's interesting.
I think it's a big difference from how Rick is lit and how he's dressed a lot.
Right. So she's seen as this symbol of maybe if Ilsa is Rick's a symbol of America, right? Maybe Ilsa is this, if we're going to go along with this political commentary, right? Maybe Ilsa is like Western Europe, right? Trying to hold on against the evil, that's coming in. We could maybe carry that analysis on in that way.
Can I give a little bit of a personal anecdote that adds on to the history of this movie?
Go ahead.
My great grandfather was actually a Nazi in, he was a lieutenant in the Nazi military. I know that's a really bad thing to admit, but I didn't have anything to do with that. But
it's history, right?
Yeah, this movie actually does well whenever it comes to showing like uniforms and stuff like that and procedure, because if you were even suspected, and I know this because my great grandfather was a Jew hunter. If you were even suspected of harboring a Jew or like a disabled person in these times, they would come and raid you almost immediately. But like if you had a high value target, they would make it a scene of embarrassment for not only that person but for the faction that they were with. So like you've got the Maison Trois, which was a resistance bar in France, and they arrested the owner of the bar. I think her name was Isabelle Mazabli, and they arrested her. Through the Nazi soldiers threw eggs at her and drug her out of her own bar, and the resistance was demoralized at that point in occupied France. And my great grandfather, he very much was a brutal person, and I know that he told me personally that he one time drug a man out of his bar, curb stomped him, and took all of his teeth out, which it wasn't called curb stomping at that point. And just like nobody ever flocked around that bar again because they were just scared of it. So like them doing that and arresting that man in the very like theatrical fashion that they did was quite accurate.
Yeah, you're kind of leading us along the lines of even talking about Casablanca itself, in the film. The Casablanca itself's the mise en scene here, right? So France at this point, um, Germany was trying to be careful with how it handled Casablanca. Right? They pretty much have control there. They pretty much have control, but there's still an element of neutrality there. So, like you were just talking about with the bar that your great grandfather was at, right? They do kind of show their aggressiveness here at a couple of points. They're trying to be subtle about it. They don't want to be that aggressive, like you were just talking, but they're trying to squeeze in a little bit. So yeah, it is very intrusive, right? There's the one scene. None of you guys have mentioned this scene yet, where Rick actually helps the woman. He rigs the gambling to help her get out too. The Germans are looking for her right there. So that might throw a wrench in your Rick doesn't care about anyone but himself argument that some of you have been making.
I actually have a counterpoint to that because I think the only reason that he helped her was for a scene not to get caused and to not make a disturbance, and so it doesn't inconvenience him. Because I know, as me, I am the very same way. If I can avoid something by helping someone out and it not become an awkward situation or like devolve into
Right.
just an ordeal, I will definitely go out of my way to make that happen, but not so much as to where it inconveniences me. Because, if I can do one small thing to not be inconvenienced for the rest of my day, I will. Like, I remember in middle school, they were going to prank my teacher, and I cut the rope on the door that they had holding up a bunch of books and stuff, and it fell down before the teacher even come in. I'm like, I am not getting detention today. It was just very much like I'm not getting inconvenienced by other people's stupidity.
Right. So you think it was more of he's trying to keep the bar in line rather than his genuine compassion for her.
Yeah, I think the bar is in a sense his old lady. Like that's what he cares about, you know. And he let, and I said this in my writing too, and it's a very Ferengi from Star Trek saying, peace is good for business, war is good for business.
Right.
Like if you can keep a neutral zone and you can serve German, French, English, and American soldiers, you're making triple the profit for just letting a few extra people with differing ideologies in. But I'm glad that they had enough respect as the soldiers to be like, this is a place of drinking and neutrality, and respected that enough to not fight, even though they did try it at one point in the scene. It got shut down very quick.
Yeah, the bar is a key place in the film. If you guys notice, there's really not a lot of different scenes like settings in this movie. We have the bar, we have the airport scene, we have the police chief's office. And there's one scene where Rick and Ilsa are walking down the street, and like they see like the rug salesman. That's it, right? Those are the four mise en scenes in the film. Five, as we count Ilsa and her husband's room. Right, so it's this very. You could almost do this like it's a play instead of a movie, right? The mise en scene is so. There's not many different scenes in the film that they transition between, which is masterful in a way that they were able to pull that off. But the Casablanca is this place. It's it's a morally gray place, right? All these shady deals are going down just to try to get people out of Europe into America.
Talking about stuff in America, if I'm not talking about stuff in America, there's one scene in particular. I don't know if anybody saw this because it was only for like a second or two, but they showed Nazi troops in a field going down a road and it like throwing up dust and stuff. And Strasser asked Rick, "Could you imagine Nazis in New York?" And I feel like that right there is the singular point of whenever this film becomes propaganda, because it's trying to convince the people in America that, hey, maybe if we help them, we don't have to deal with this, in our homeland, like Europe has been, and especially to show like a scene in the midst of a war of Nazis just driving somewhere, that in and of itself is scary because it's showing like, hey, this is real, this is here, like, because before then, almost no Americans had ever witnessed the Nazis or seen what they were doing, but now that we have that in a capacity in a film, I feel like it really brings it home to the heart and people think about it every day, and then it's like, okay, we just need to fight them.
Right. Yeah, for a country that's neutral and thinking we're an exception to the rest of the world, right? That is a scary thing, right? Imagine if they took over New York. It brings prescience to the moment. Leah's comment came through. She's talking about the scene with a bars representing imprisonment. She said the scene that I really noticed the shadowing contrast. Ilsa and Victor were standing in front of the window talking. It was like the sun was shining in the window, making a large contrast bar pattern across their bodies. I like to think that the pattern represents being locked in place like a jail cell. So she's talking about when Ilsa and her husband are together in their room. She says the lighting looked like bars, like a jail cell bar. That's a really cool analysis there, Leah, of that scene. Another instance of how lighting works. It might be doing some visual storytelling. What did you guys want? We're jumping back and forth a lot here, but what did you guys think about the character of the police chief? He's also another key ingredient in this film. Maybe let's get somebody who hasn't talked yet. Jessica, what do you think of the police chief in the film? Did you find him delightfully despicable in a way, or
A little bit. Here's a little bit. I mean, but I like he was not too much, but a little, a tad bit.
right? He knows how to play it.
Yes, he knows how to play yes, exactly. He knows how to play people and get what he wants by doing it.
Yeah, I think this is a character that's impossible not to like, right? Just because he's put in an impossible situation. He always makes the best of it.
True. Yeah.
And he's also like one of those characters that like very much radiates a charismatic aura in a time of distress. Like I felt very comforted by his presence in the film while I was watching it. It's just like, my rock in the water, basically.
Did any of you guys think that he wouldn't go along with Rick's plan at the end? Maybe
I really didn't think that he was going to. But yeah, I didn't think that he was gonna go 100% with it, but he did. Huh?
Right. So he surprised you there then.
Yes, yes.
You know, that scene at the end, where the plane flies off and Rick tells them this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, right? And they walk off into the distance, right? Classic Hollywood scene. Have you guys seen that scene referenced in anything before, or heard that line? It's the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Every anime I've ever watched.
Really?
The power of friendship is basically what it is in every one of them. It's like, oh, you're about to die. You're my friend, you know. And then like two rivals will fight each other, and it's like, this is the start of a beautiful friendship. You know, it's not said, but it's definitely like implied.
Right. Why do you guys think that I can always let me show the scene for you. We'll do a little bit of scene analysis here. You go to the very end.
William, why did you not come to class? I'm here all by myself.
Because it's cheaper to do it on Zoom, and I don't have to waste my
I
gas.
heard that. That is so true.
So I'm going to show the scene to you here. Maybe we'll talk about like why do you think this scene's so iconic? So let's do it.
I'll say we can't see it.
Yeah,
Can't.
no.
I think it's a copyright safety thing.
I used to be able to do it. I don't know if they've added something in here. Let me try another way. Casablanca should not be copyrighted at this point anyway. It's so old. All right, let's try YouTube, see if YouTube works. You guys see the YouTube screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can't hear it though.
So yeah, what strikes you guys about that scene? Lighting, um, even like the plot, the sentimentality of the thing. Like, why do you guys think that scene's so iconic?
Personally, I think the crane hook, like where it's going, or crane shot going up, and then just casually talking to each other, it for me is what ends the movie because it gives it such a like definite finality to it, to where we don't need a Casablanca 2, we don't need a sequel to it because it feels like that's where the story ends for these characters. And I feel like you don't really get that a lot because you get like you get Star Wars and then you get the prequels, the sequels, the originals, and now you've got like all the new ones, or you've got Jurassic Park and there's like 6 of them now. Not a lot of movies have like that innate finality to them, and I think that's what gives this a good appraisal. Like it deserves it because it's unique.
Right, that's a good point.
I think it was like a good foreshadowing because at the beginning of the film, when the plane passes over Lewis and Rick when they're sitting outside the cafe, and then you have at the end of the movie like the plane leaving.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Right. It brings the whole movie full circle. Right, with the symbol of the plane. So yeah, that's a good point too. Other thoughts about this scene? Yeah, I really enjoy the fog in the scene too. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but it's so foggy. And between that and the black and white collar, lack of color, the fogs, I think, adds a certain mood to the scene too. Right. I can't even explain what the fog adds. But I couldn't imagine that scene on a clear night without the fog. Right? Maybe it's showing the plane's light going up into the gray. Right? Maybe that's what I like about it. Yeah, but the plane's lights are very vivid in this dark gray night in the fog. I think that's something that I think it's a beautiful image.
Yeah, I think the plane lights just soaring off, that's another reason why I say it gives it that finality. It's like that's gone and we're here, and let's just continue doing what we have to do, because a big portion of the story was Rick and Ilsa's love for each other, but that's like a very small part of drama, considering the fact that there's a world war going on. It's like we see it as a point of like, oh, this is what the story focuses on, but their drama is nothing compared to what's going on. And so them having their relationship end and this being the end of like the story is not that big of an impact given the overall. And so I think it just shows us a small chunk of a story, to an overall arcing grand drama of a war.
How individuals might play a big part in something as grand as World War II. Kind of sum up your words there, Will. Very interesting. So which of the two films did you guys prefer so far? Did you like Casablanca more or Double Indemnity more? The two we've seen so far.
The first one.
Oh yeah, you like Double Indemnity more? Tell me why, Caitlin.
I just like the plot of it better.
The fun insurance scheme, right?
Yeah, I feel like it was a little bit darker too.
I just like this one better because I'm more of a history buff than anything. So I think it really like spoke to my inner history teacher, getting to watch the film because it very much is very involved with history.
Right. I think that's why I love this film too, Will, because I'm a big history person. Some of you guys in Logan, which one did you guys prefer?
I like Casablanca better. I'm Myra, by the way. You should also
Myra?
put me. You should also put me on the roll if you didn't.
Yeah, I got you. I got
Okay.
you.
I like Casablanca better because I just think the plot was like a lot more complex and it didn't like make people seem to be like as bad as the first one did. That's about it.
Right. So you found it to be a more hopeful film.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody as morally gray as Rick, right, can go into the light, so to speak. Right? So yeah, it is very hopeful. Well, some of the rest of you guys over there think Kyle Desmond.
I think I like Double Indemnity more.
Why so?
I don't know. I guess because it's a sort of a dark crime thriller. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah, I agree with him. I don't like the whole lovey-dovey thing.
Yeah,
Like
the
this.
melodrama.
Yeah, a little bit of action in the movie makes it more for me. I like the mystery part of it.
Jessica, you said you're more of a Double Indemnity person.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I liked it better.
I feel like a good middle ground, if you like both but prefer one over the other, is a movie called Inglorious Bastards. Great movie. Has the drama of Casablanca, but the action, well, more so action than Double Indemnity. It's very action packed.
Here's a question for you guys. Hollywood is obsessed with remakes, right? Everything always gets remade. But Casablanca has never been remade. Why do you guys think that is? And would you like to see a remake of Casablanca? Like if they remade it with modern actors, modern audience, modern filmmaking techniques, would you want to watch that movie?
I think there was a remake, like a 2017 remake. Because I was looking online. I could be wrong though. I'm not 100% sure on that. Or a TV series.
I don't think I would personally like it because, like, you don't repaint the Mona Lisa after you've already done it once.
Right.
You know?
There's been lots of like taking the same type of plot, but I'll have to look into that. I don't know about a TV show. I didn't know that. I know that there's been lots of talks about reviving it to some extent, but I don't know if it's ever been done.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know that for a fact. I was just like when I was like reading up on the movie and stuff.
Right. Will said you don't mess with good art, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't want to remake. I'd keep it as it is.
Yeah, now that America is so now that America is the world power too, right? Maybe some of the subtext of the film wouldn't hold up too, right? America being neutral and all this stuff. Perhaps I'm speculating here.
Oh no, I think you're right. We're very pro go get them now.
Yeah.
Like we just pulled out, not to get political or anything, but we just pulled out of a place we've been in for over 30 years.
Yeah. The Afghanistan conflict, right? We're pretty much leaving them to rot right now, which is sad.
But I think a big problem that America needs to really like fix, especially now, is like we don't know what to do without a war to fight because we've been fighting a war for so long. Like for almost nearly 100 years we've been in conflict. We've had stuff like World War One. We had the revolution of Mexico and Texas and all that. We've just constantly been in conflict, and I think that's a big part of why stories like this are important, because it shows why, or not why, but rather how we get into wars and why we stay in them.
It's interesting that America used to be very anti-conflict too, right? We didn't want to be involved. Not really the America of today, right? We're the world's police today. If you had to recast the two big actors, how would Ingrid or Ilsa and Rick, who would you cast with today's actors? That's another fun question. Will said Hugh Jackman earlier, maybe for
Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson. She kind of, yeah, I can see that for her.
I would go Mark Wahlberg, Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie, Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg's good.
I could see Wahlberg's got that kind of. I can see where he would have that kind of like masculinity, that type of masculinity, like Bogart does,
or Matt Damon, either one.
Yeah, I could see him or, was it Bradley Cooper? Maybe.
Want to play the American Sniper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I said ScarJo is because I feel like she gives off that aesthetic of like a 1950s confident woman. Like she's always had just that feel to her. Like, if you give me a chance, I will kill you. Like, even not acting as like Black Widow, but like a lot of other movies that she's been in, just that's a woman that will kill you.
Right. Yeah, I don't know my own answer to this question. I don't know who I would cast. If you wanted to see Jason Statham in a drama role, I think he might be good for this. He normally just plays in cheesy action movies. I would like this. I think he would be a good Rick.
Tom Cruise, because he never ages and has looked the same since like the 50s.
Right. Nicolas Cage too, right? Nicolas Cage never ages either, right?
Can't age if you have one expression.
There's a theory on the internet that Nicolas Cage is a vampire. I just want to leave you that. I just want to leave you with that today.
I believe it. And Betty White is a witch. She has to be.
So it's going to cut us off in a second. So next movie up is Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive. You can find that on Stars if you have Stars. David Lynch. It's a 2001 movie. Great movie. We'll briefly get out of the old movies and have a modern film here. So I'll look forward to that. It's a female-dominated movie. So there'll be more variety here than we had in the first week. There is a femme fatale, so I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say.